Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
I had spent 15 years building Coleman Tech Systems from the inside, shaping its brand, expanding its reach, and ensuring its survival despite Sebastian Coleman's reckless leadership. And now, as I sat in his sleek, glass-walled office, the man I had once respected delivered the final insult. Sebastian leaned back in his chair, a self-satisfied smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. His charcoal suit was immaculate, his silver watch glinting under the office lights. He enjoyed this. "Fanny, you've been a cornerstone of this company," he said, lacing his fingers together. "But it's time for fresh ideas. We're bringing in Frank Goldman as the new marketing director. I need you to train him before you, well, transition out." A cold weight settled in my stomach, but I kept my expression impassive. This wasn't just a dismissal, it was humiliation. 15 years of dedication tossed aside like an outdated business model. Sebastian tilted his head, watching me for a reaction. I gave him none. Instead, I folded my hands neatly on my lap. "I see," I said evenly. "And when does this transition begin?" "Monday," he replied, pleased with himself. "Frank will be shadowing you. I expect full cooperation." I almost laughed. He had no idea. No idea that while his arrogance had run this company into the ground, I had been quietly securing its future. Without him. For the past 4.5 years, I had acquired Coleman Tech Systems through my own holding firm, FF Ventures Innovations. As of last week, I was the sole owner. Sebastian was firing me from my own company. I stood, smoothing my skirt. "Of course, Sebastian, you'll have my full cooperation." He exhaled, relieved that I wasn't making a scene. "Good. I knew you'd be professional about this." I offered a polite smile. "Oh, I wouldn't dream of anything else." As I left his office, my heels clicking against the marble floors, I pulled out my phone and sent a single text to my legal team. "Schedule the emergency board meeting. It's time." I leaned back in my chair, fingers tracing the edge of an old photograph on my desk. William Coleman, the founder of this company, stood beside me in the image, his hand resting on my shoulder. He had believed in integrity and innovation. His son, Sebastian, had turned that vision into a playground for his ego. I had seen the warning signs early: reckless spending, alienated investors, a revolving door of talented employees. When Coleman Tech's stock began slipping, Sebastian dismissed it as market fluctuations. I saw it for what it was, an opportunity. For 4.5 years, through FF Ventures Innovations, I had quietly acquired shares, taking advantage of every dip Sebastian caused. Each careless decision, each burned bridge, brought me closer to control. Now, as I sipped my coffee, my assistant, Lorna, entered, her face unreadable. "The board meeting is confirmed for tomorrow at 9. Sebastian doesn't suspect a thing." I nodded. "Good. He thinks I'm just another casualty of his incompetence." She hesitated before speaking. "Are you sure about this, Fanny? Once we go through with it, there's no turning back." I set my cup down. "Lorna, he fired me from my own company. Tomorrow, he learns the truth." I glanced at my phone. The official announcement of my majority ownership was scheduled to go public at exactly 8:55 am, 5 minutes before the board meeting. By the time Sebastian took his seat, the company would already be mine. The boardroom was silent, save for the soft ticking of the clock. The directors sat in their leather chairs, eyes darting between their tablets and each other, murmuring in confusion. Sebastian Coleman, seated at the head of the table, tapped his fingers impatiently. He had no idea what was coming. The door swung open, and I walked in with deliberate calm. My heels clicked against the polished floor, each step measured, each breath controlled. I could feel Sebastian's gaze burning into me, the smugness still lingering from yesterday when he had so graciously ordered me to train my own replacement. "You shouldn't be here, Fanny," he said coldly, his lips curling into a forced smile. "You no longer have a seat at this table." I placed a thick folder on the table and slid it toward him. "Actually, Sebastian, I have the only seat that matters." His smirk faltered as he flipped through the papers. Around him, the board members straightened in their chairs, reading the breaking news alerts on their devices. FF Ventures Innovations acquires controlling shares in Coleman Tech Systems. Sebastian's face paled, His fingers tightened around the folder. What the hell is this? Ownership records, I said, keeping my voice even. Over the past 4.5 years, I've been acquiring Coleman Tech shares through my firm, FF Ventures. As of this morning, I'd own 61% of the company. A stunned silence followed. One of the board members, a sharp-eyed woman named Judith, cleared her throat. Is this accurate? It is, I confirmed, placing another document in front of her. And with my majority stake, I am calling for an immediate vote of no confidence in Sebastian Coleman as CEO. Sebastian shot up from his chair, his face red with fury. You conniving. Sit down, I cut him off, my tone unwavering. This is business, Sebastian. The same ruthless game you've played your whole life. You just lost. His jaw tightened, but he lowered himself back into his chair. The board members exchanged glances, some nodding in quiet approval. One by one, hands began to rise. Sebastian's breathing was shallow. You can't do this, he spat. This company is mine. My father built it. And you nearly destroyed it. I interrupted. William Coleman believed in innovation, integrity, and leadership. You. I gestured at the reports in front of me, have led this company to its lowest valuation in years. Poor decision-making, internal instability, declining investor confidence. You turned your father's legacy into a sinking ship. Sebastian clenched his fists. He looked to the board for support, but their expressions were resolute. He had no allies left. Unanimous. Sebastian slumped back in his chair as the reality set in. He had been outmaneuvered, outplayed, and out of power. The air inside the executive suite was heavy with anticipation. Employees peered from their offices, murmuring among themselves as I strode through the halls. This time, not as a marketing director, but as the owner of Coleman Tech Systems. Change was coming, and they all felt it. I entered the boardroom, where a small group of senior employees had gathered. Among them was Frank Goldman, the man Sebastian had hired to replace me. He leaned against the table with crossed arms, exuding confidence he hadn't earned. I assume there's a reason I was called in, Frank said smoothly. Yes, I said, sliding a document across the table. Consider this your termination letter. His smirk vanished. Excuse me. I clasped my hands. You were hired by Sebastian, who is no longer with the company. Your position is unnecessary. Frank scoffed, glancing around for support, but the others remained silent. No one would come to his aid. You're making a mistake, he muttered, shoving the letter into his pocket. But I'm sure you'll realize that soon enough. He stormed out, and I turned to the team. That's one problem taken care of. Now let's talk about fixing this company. Judith, one of the board members who had supported my takeover, leaned forward. Where do we start? I exhaled slowly, unfolding my plan. First, we reinstate the employees Sebastian sidelined, talented minds who were either ignored or forced out. I want HR to contact them immediately with offers. Heads nodded in agreement. I continued, next, we're reviving our mentorship programs. Coleman Tech was once known for fostering young talent, but under Sebastian, those initiatives were cut. That changes today. Murmurs of approval filled the room. Momentum was shifting. Finally, I said, we need to repair our reputation. Investors have lost confidence and our clients are wary. We're going to be transparent about our restructuring. I'll personally oversee key accounts to assure them we're back on track. A young department head raised his hand. And what about Sebastian? He won't go quietly. I met his gaze and smiled. Let him rage. It won't change the fact that he's out, and we're moving forward. The meeting concluded, and as I walked out, I saw employees standing a little taller, their expressions lighter. For the first time in years, Coleman Tech Systems had a future. Sebastian Coleman was a man who never learned to lose. His downfall had been public, humiliating, and entirely his own doing. But that didn't stop him from trying to claw his way back. I wasn't surprised when he barged into my office unannounced, his face red with rage, his breath uneven. He didn't even knock. Typical. You think this is over, Fanny? He spat, slamming the door behind him. You stole my company. I leaned back in my chair, calm and in control. Your company? I tilted my head, letting the silence stretch between us before adding, you destroyed it. I saved it. Sebastian's hands balled into fists at his sides. You were nothing but an employee. I built this empire. No, your father did, I corrected sharply. And I've respected William Coleman too much to let you burn it to the ground. His jaw tightened, the veins in his temple pulsing. I'll sue. I'll find a way back. I slid a thick file across the desk, my fingers tapping the top page. Go ahead, I said, my voice steady. But this... I gestured toward the folder. Is a full financial report detailing your mismanagement, losses, and questionable transactions. If you challenge me, I'll make sure the SEC and the authorities take a very close look at your dealings. His bravado cracked, his eyes flickered to the folder but didn't dare open it. You wouldn't. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Try me. Sebastian stood frozen, his shoulders rising and falling with deep, ragged breaths. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, until he finally let out a frustrated growl. Without another word, he turned and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the glass panels shuddered. I let out a slow breath, turning my gaze toward the city skyline outside my window. It was over.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.